prayer today and mentioned about helping others. Our speaker needs a little introduction, but she represents the Red Cross, and they need no reference at all. We're very familiar with the great job they do. And representing that organization today to speak to us is Michelle Johnson. She's the donor recruitment representative for this area. She's got a few handouts I'll pass out, but I'm going to turn it over right now to Michelle and give her a great Rotary welcome.
Can you all hear me back there? Darn, right? I want to say thank you for allowing me to come and speak to you. I am a donor recruiter rep for the American Red Cross, and that sounds really great, but what I do is I try and educate people on blood donation and why it's important. That's just what it boils down to. There are two separate entities within the Red Cross, and I don't know if most people know that or not. We have what we call chapter, which is our disaster services, and here in Cape they are located on Maya Drive, which is behind, it's over by the Century 21 behind the Commerce Bank. And what they do is, chapter is disaster services. They go out to fires whenever there's a fire, and they help the folks at the fires. They also feed and bring beverages to the firemen. Hurricanes, you know what they do with Hurricane Sandy. We actually had 11 of our volunteers out helping out with Hurricane Sandy. We did also send, I'm going to read this, the Emergency Response Vehicle, the ERV. And they do mass care and feeding, they did staffing, they did sheltering, they did bulk distributions, and government relations, which is always so much fun. But that's what our chapter does. Now, we're all part of one same Red Cross, and I'm with the Biomedical Services, and what we do is we collect blood. We've been doing it since 1940. We collect about 40% of the nation's blood, and we do supply over 3,000 hospitals. We do supply the hospitals here in Cape Girardeau. We supply the hospitals in Perryville. We supply the surrounding hospitals. We also supply some up in St. Louis, including Children's Hospital. So the blood that you donate here in the area can be used here in the area. Now, that's not a necessary guarantee. I'm an A negative, so my blood tends to travel around quite a bit because I'm 6% of the population. So your blood goes where it's needed. I'm pretty motivated to do my job for personal reasons. I think that most people don't really understand why donating blood is so critical. I personally had a nephew who had cancer, and so I watched him get numerous blood products that allowed him to continue getting the chemotherapy and the radiation that he so needed. So when you see those kind of personal stories, I mean, for me, it was a chance for me to educate myself into, you know, wow, can I donate blood? Can I donate platelets? Can I do that? And to understand exactly why that is. I always say, people think that it's going to be on the shelves. My husband and I, in the mornings, we always have yogurt and a banana. I don't know, it's just tradition. So went to Walmart one day, and I was shocked when I went to get the bananas. There were no bananas on the shelf. I just always assumed that whenever I went to get bananas, there were going to be bananas there. I couldn't believe that there were bananas at Walmart that day. But I was able to go down to the store down the street and buy bananas. Yay. But blood is not like that. Blood has to actually be on the shelves when we need it to be there. You can't go down to a store and buy it. You can't replicate it. It only comes from human donations. So we have to donate in order for the blood to be there. And I don't think I quite realized that. You just assume that if you're going to go to the hospital, that blood's always going to be there. Well, when you know the numbers, it gets a little staggering. At any given time, only 38% of the population can donate blood. For medical reasons, travel reasons, whatever. And yet only 5% 5% of the population donate blood. The average is 1.5 times a year. And our biggest donor base are retired veterans. Thank you to any veterans in here. But a lot of them are aging out of the donation process due to health issues, medical issues, medicine. That can sometimes keep you from donating. Travel issues can be a big thing with our current veterans. The other population that we do get quite a bit of blood from is high schools. We get 20% of our blood from high schools, which is kind of surprising. They love those t-shirts. But once they graduate and get out of college, we tend to lose them until they get into their mid to late 40s. And then we pick them up again. So right now we have quite a big gap in our donor base. So that's why donating blood is so very critical. If you think about it, and you know who needs blood, that's also something. If you think about people in your life, anyone who's had cancer, anyone who has sickle cell anemia, accident victims. One car accident victim can take anywhere from 1 unit to 100 units of blood. That's 100 people that actually had to donate blood to save that one life. Leukemia, cancer patients, they can take platelets, and platelets. You can donate platelets as a specific donation at our center, and I'll explain that to you in a minute. But if you're just donating whole blood at, say, a blood drive or at the center, it takes 5 people to donate in order to get enough platelets to make 1 transfusion. Platelets have a 5-day shelf life. 5 days. From the minute they take them from you, send them to St. Louis to our testing lab, get them to the person that needs them, 5 days. And you figure you have a tight range as to where we can ship those to. Blood, we can store it for up to 42 days. Plasma, we can freeze for up to a year, but whole blood, 42 days. You think about that cycle, every 42 days we need more blood. But we use it before it goes bad. We can transport it from hospital to hospital or from our national testing lab up in St. Louis. Every 2 seconds in America, someone needs blood. We use 40,000 units of blood every single day. That's 1 in 6 patients who check into the hospital need blood or blood products. So when you go back and you think about that 38% of the population, and only 5% of them choose to donate, it gets a little hairy, to say the least. So I do what I do because the need is so constant. When you think about blood types, O negative is the universal blood type. There are only 7% of the population. So if you're O negative, we need you in a big way. If you go into an emergency situation, they don't know your blood type, they're going to give you O negative. There are AB negative, is 1% of the population, and they can only take AB negative donations. So if you're AB negative, we need you also. We need all blood types, but especially O negative, we're in constant need of. If we find out you have O negative, we're going to be calling you a lot, every 56 days. One donation of blood can save up to 3 lives. Now you may go, how's that possible? What they can do is they can separate it into the red blood cells, the plasma, and the platelets. So by doing that, you can save actually up to 3 lives if they use those products in that manner. Donations, we get about 80% of our blood from what we call mobile units, which are businesses and churches and other locations that are willing to host and sponsor blood drives. We do have what we call a fixed site, which is on Mount Auburn, and you can stop in and donate blood there. We get about 20% of our blood from the fixed sites. Most people find that it's easier to donate if it's convenient. So businesses hosting blood drives, schools hosting blood drives, churches, that's so critical for us because that's where we get 80% of our blood from. I know Procter & Gamble, I'll just give a shout out to them. They 4 times a year will do a blood drive from us, and over a 2-day process they'll get 100 units. So, and they allow their workers to do it on the clock. So we'll have to give them a big shout out. They're wonderful help for us. The hospitals here in Cape, both St. Francis and Southeast, do blood drives for us also. St. Francis does 5 and Southeast does 6. They are also a big help. So if you are wanting to help us out, there are many ways that you can help. You can donate blood, you can find a blood drive, and you can go to redcrossblood.org, put in your zip code, and it brings up all the blood drives that are in your area, or you can call 1-800-RED-CROSS. We're constantly needing volunteers at blood drives. If you want to volunteer a couple of hours of your time, you don't have to work the complete blood drive, but we need volunteers to help us in the canteen area. We need volunteers to help us check people in. If you own a business, you can post signs for us. You can donate a product for us or a service for us that we can do a drawing for at a blood drive. Anything that we can do to advertise to get people to come to our blood drives, we desperately need to do. You can teach your family about donating blood. It warms my heart every time I see a complete family come in to donate blood together. You know, it's just something that they have built in their family as a tradition. You can help us get the word out. You can put posters in your business. You can take flyers to your churches. Any way that you can help us get the word out for blood drives is greatly appreciated. If you're a business, I'm going to say it again, or if you belong to a church, you can definitely host a blood drive for us. We're always in need of those. If you want to do what we call a platelet donation, you're more than welcome to do a platelet donation, but those have to be done at the center. Those you can do twice a month, so long as your iron is high enough, and it's just platelets. They hook you up to a machine, and I call it kind of like a dialysis machine. They take your whole blood out, they spin it, they collect the platelets, and they put everything else back in along with IV fluids. That process does take about 2 hours though, so it takes a special person to sit there for 2 hours. We do have Wi-Fi, so you can work on your computer. We have a TV to keep you occupied. But if you choose to do that, I do have information about that. At some of our bigger drives, we do have what we call the double red machines, or Alex. That allows you to donate 2 donations of red blood cells. They take out your blood, they spin it, they take out the red blood cells, put everything else back in, plus some IV fluids. And that allows you to donate 2 donations of red blood cells. And then you can only donate every 112 days versus every 56 days for whole blood. It allows people who have tight schedules to get in, get it done, and donate more frequently. That's pretty much what I have. Does anybody have any questions about blood donations or blood drives? Or? Yes, sir.
I have a question about, you talked about O negative being the universal, and help me with the math. You said that's 7 or 9% of the population?
7% of the population are O negative, and that's that would be Caucasians.
Okay.
Each different group has different percentages, but for the most part, most of our donors are Caucasian, and so that's what we roll with.
So you said anybody can get O negative?
Anybody can get O negative. It is the universal. So if you're in an accident, you end up in the ER, and you don't know your blood type, they're going to give you a neg.
The preparation for giving the centrifuge or the white blood platelets.
Mm-hmm.
What
the whole blood or the platelets?
The evening before.
Well, you want to, yeah, and especially us women, we need to prepare to donate blood or platelets a little bit further in advance, because the Red Cross requires a little bit higher iron count than most places do, and we tend to have a lower iron count. We don't eat as well, typically, and around here we're big iced tea drinkers, and believe it or not, iced tea has tannins in it that prevent your body from absorbing iron. So if you drink tea, you want to maybe cut that out for about a week beforehand. I know. There are some things that you can do. I did pass out a pamphlet there on iron, preparing for iron. If you eat a high iron content meal and you drink orange juice with it, somehow it breaks down those minerals and helps your body absorb those a little bit better. You also want to eat really hearty before you donate. Please do not come to donate blood or blood products on an empty stomach. When you donate a pint of blood, the average body has 10 pints. When you donate 1 pint, your blood sugar can drop a little bit, so if it's higher before you start, you're much better off. Because if it gets a little too low, you can get dizzy or nauseous, and we don't want that. So we want you to eat. And if you drink plenty of fluids, non-alcoholic, before you donate, it also helps the donation process go a little speedier. Non-alcoholic. And then you shouldn't drink or smoke for the next couple hours once you have donated. But to donate for platelets and blood is pretty much the same process to prepare for it.
They injected me with something, I don't know what it was, the night before.
Really?
There you go. And it's done at Little Rock.
No, we've got it.
Little Rock University.
You don't glow in the dark, do you? No.
The white blood cells was
What they did?
platelets, and I gave them to the man the next morning, and it was amazing to see the change in him in about 3 or 4 hours.
Yeah, they don't do that anymore. I actually was talking to an older gentleman when I was out recruiting at one point, and he said, way back when, he had, I believe, O negative or AB negative, I can't remember which, but they used to drive him around the country and hook him up to the actual donor, so he would see the blood going in from him into the other donor. They don't do that anymore. We send it up to the national testing labs, and it gets tested for quite a few things before it goes out.
Well, this thing went through 3 testing labs.
Yeah.
From the time that it was finished until he got it.
We actually in St. Louis have one of the 5 testing labs in the country, so we're kind of lucky about that. Yes, sir.
You had mentioned that you supply 40% of the nation's blood supply.
The American Red Cross does, yes.
Are there other entities like yourself that collect? Where's the other 60% come from?
Yes, but we don't like to talk about them.
No. I don't even know who they are, so.
There are other blood banks that are out there, but the Red Cross is the best. That we don't have any competition here in this area. There are some up north that are trying to work their way in. But I will tell you that by supporting the Red Cross with your blood donations, you're also helping the complete Red Cross, which includes chapter. Yes, sir.
Of the total amount you get donated, you mentioned it's pretty stringent approval process, I guess, in testing. What percentage of what you take in actually makes the cut?
I couldn't really speak to that. I do know that the pre-donation process has gotten very detailed. We make you read a book that's pages long that the CDC sets up for us. We also ask you quite a few questions during the process. Some of them are a little embarrassing, but they're necessary. So that the blood right now that we provide is the safest it's ever been, but I don't know the percentage of what gets kicked back. I do know that if there is an issue with your blood, that you either get a call or a letter, depending on what the issue is. Yes, sir.
Let's go back to his question of the competition. Are they nonprofits like you? Or are they for profits?
Some are nonprofit, not-for-profit. Yes, some are not-for-profit. There are what are deemed as plasma centers. You've heard of people getting paid for their blood. Those are for-profit, and they do only collect plasma. Plasma or blood, if it's paid for, cannot be used for human transfusions. It can't be used for a human. And you don't want to know what all they use it for, other than testing.
Hair products.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
They have been working towards that, but they have not come really even close. There's just really no substitute, which is a shame, because the need is so great. But then again, too, I think it gives us a chance to step up and, you know, do something really, really impressive when you think about it. I mean, I always say to the college students when we're out there, you know, what else can you do with an hour and save 3 lives and not have to run into a burning building and pull people out? Not much. You don't have to lift a car off anybody, you know, just donate blood. And I think once people actually have done a donation once, it's not the big scary thing that they thought it was. I know, the first time I donated blood, I worked myself up into quite the little tizzy, you know, and then I'm like, oh, that's it? I'm done? Before I knew it, I was done. Yes, sir.
Do people need to make an appointment at your Mount Auburn location, or can they just walk in?
You should at the Mount Auburn, especially if you want to donate platelets. You have to make an appointment because there are only so many machines. But if you want to at the Mount Auburn Center, yes, I would highly recommend it. They have very limited staff there, and you could do that by 1-800-RED Cross or redcrossblood.org. Or come to a blood drive that we have going. We have the big KFBS blood drive coming up, and we'll be doing that Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, the 10th, 11th, and 12th at the mall. And we have T-shirts and Subway cards. Yes, sir.
What are some of the most common factors that would disqualify people from donating?
If you're on a blood thinner, that would disqualify you depending on the milligrams. Now, I don't keep up on the medicines because they change that every week. We get a new CD from the CDC with a list of medicines, and travel restrictions are another big one. Mexico, used to be certain places in Mexico you could go and you weren't deferred, but now if you step off the plane into Mexico or you cross the border into Mexico, you're deferred automatically for a year. They have this little bug that causes the Chagas, I think I'm saying that right, Chagas disease, and it defers you for a year.
Just we'll back up for a moment. I cannot, you will not accept my blood. Reason being,
I'm sorry.
the reason being, I got 2 musculars when I was coming out of Vietnam. And nobody, I volunteered several times, and once they get my background, they won't take it. So that's another thing you've got to think about. There's some of us out there that can't contribute.
Yeah, only 38% of the population at any time can donate. Now, something to think about too, if you've ever been turned down, the CDC does reevaluate things pretty consistently. So you can, if you've been turned down before, you can always call 1-800-RED Cross. I know that if you were stationed in the military in Germany or England when they had mad cow, you're a permanent temporary deferral because that's something that we can't test for that you may carry. And until they come up with a test for that, you're permanently, temporarily deferred. I know. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Do you inform people if they have something?
Yeah, if there's an issue, well, if your iron's too low, they're going to tell you right there. If your blood pressure's too high or your pulse is too high, they're going to tell you right there. Outside of that, you will get a call or a letter depending on what it is. If it's something really serious, they're going to call you. If it's something not so serious, they'll send you a letter with a number to call. Yes, sir.
They frown upon that.
I've given blood
Go ahead.
several years ago, probably over 50 times, and then all of a sudden I got a letter from the Red Cross that I had a false positive test for hepatitis C, and they did subsequent tests and they came back negative, and I even went to my doctor with that letter and had another blood test independent, and it came back negative. But the letter said that, you know, that I would not ever be eligible to give blood or even donate organs. And as near as I can tell, that happened just about the time when they first came up with the test for hepatitis C, and there were a lot of those false negatives. And
Yes.
I just wondered if there's any recourse now this time.
There actually is. Now that your doctor's done a test and got a negative, you can contact 1-800-RED Cross, and they should be able to pull you up in the system, and with your doctor's letter and the test results, you should be able to work it out with them to more than likely donate again. I won't say for sure, but I do know, I've talked to people that that's happened before in the past. I believe we are we done?
No, if you have other questions,
Okay,
anyone else have any other questions?
Yes, ma'am.
I don't remember it always being such a treatment for cancers, but are you finding that blood usage, I mean, now I had a friend whose son had leukemia, and that was a constant. In your literature here, it says it too. Are there other treatments that are coming about where blood's being higher demand for than what we traditionally think surgery or an injury where you have blood loss?
That's a really good question. There are actually 1 million new patients diagnosed each year with cancer. And when you get that chemotherapy and the radiation, your body just needs sometimes platelets or red blood or plasma just to bring it back up so that you can continue getting that. But we're finding with some things like that we need more blood of. The progression of laparoscopic surgery has caused us to actually need less blood in surgery. So it's kind of a little bit evened out in that way. So the advances that we make seem to balance out, which is kind of nice. Go figure. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
I know you're here with a blood drive, and we have a constant need for blood, but generally speaking, in this area, do we run out of blood, or we typically maintain the pace that we're collecting at the pace that we need to collect?
That's a great question. Generally, we do fairly good. We really do. This past year, we really struggled, and I can't speak to why. In the summer months, usually we go on what's called appeal, and if you hear the appeal, that means we're down to less than a day of blood, and that can be locally, it can be nationwide. I know that we really put in the time, and Cape Girardeau and Perryville and the surrounding areas came through, and we really picked things back up. But we'll spend 1 month in the summer and 1 month around the holidays on appeal. We went from June 1st through August on appeal this year. So we really struggled this year. And this winter's been kind of rough. Hurricane Sandy kind of really hit us hard too. When you think about it, the need was up, but the East Coast was out of power for over a week. That was 11,000 units we were shy of collecting in that 1 week period. So making that up has been quite the struggle, but we're doing pretty well with that. When we're on appeal, it can be that it's below a day's supply. Sometimes it can get down to hours. So if you ever hear the appeal message, please go donate blood. And it may not be here locally because we can supply other areas in the United States. But that's a great question. Any other questions? Thank you so much for hosting us and letting me bend your ear a little bit about blood drives, because most people, when you say blood drive, they go, needles, blood, I need to wash my hair. Thank you so much.